Now, among those actions, Fred, we've already been talking about are sanctions against 9 entities and individuals, including officials from the Russian intelligence services, also from the FSB, which is the what replaced the KGB, 2 Russian intelligence services, 4 individual officers of Russian intelligence, 3 companies that provided material support to those cyber operations. Also, the Secretary of the Treasury is designating 2 Russian individuals for using cyber-enabled means to cause misappropriation of funds and personally identifying information. We also learned that the State Department is shutting down 2 Russian compounds in Maryland and in New York that the government says were used by Russian personnel for intelligence-related purposes, and declaring 35 Russian intelligence operatives as persona non grata. So that is among the actions that the administration is announcing today, in addition to the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI releasing declassified technical information on these Russian civilian and military intelligence services and their cyber activity, so that people who are trying to defend networks against those kinds of attacks have the information they need.
Regardless of whether the RNC was hacked, and that would be a big and new development, I think we know to a certainty, given Podesta and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, that the DNC was hacked. Why aren't we as Americans upset about the fact that a foreign hostile actor, apparently, put its thumb on the scale in our election? And why doesn't Donald Trump want to get to the bottom of that as he takes office? That's the issue.
Well, first of all, okay, there's a couple things. One is I am outraged. I don't think any foreign entity, any individual, any entity.
Well, why don't you say that? And why didn't Trump say that in the statement
Michael,
last night? That's what I haven't heard.
Stop and let me. Okay, I just said it. Let me actually take yes for an answer. I said it. Okay? I don't think, Donald Trump doesn't think, no one thinks that a foreign entity should be interfering with the U.S. elections. Bottom line, full stop, I said it. Now let's get to the...
Well, President-elect Trump said yesterday and today again that you have to catch these hackers in the act. And actually, he may not be aware, he may not have been briefed that our firm CrowdStrike actually did catch them in the act. When the DNC hired us back in May, we actually came in and deployed our technology called Falcon on all the systems inside their corporate network. We actually watched these adversaries for a number of days and weeks as we were preparing to kick them out.
Who were these adversaries? Who were these people that were actually doing the hacking of the DNC?
There were 2 groups, 2 independently working groups that we associate with Russian intelligence agencies. One of them we associate with GRU, the primary military intelligence agency in Russia that is responsible for what in Russia they call active measures, disinformation campaigns such as this. They're also responsible for the takeover of Crimea. You may remember the little green men taking over military bases in Crimea. Putin had actually admitted that these were GRU operatives.
Tonight, Moscow says the hacking allegations against Russia are groundless. Vladimir Putin's spokesman challenging America to prove them. But U.S. officials tell CNN the Russian hacks continue around the clock. Phishing attempts targeting private email accounts associated with Hillary Clinton's campaign as recently as December 6th.
It's a continuing effort to collect intelligence.
Adam Myers specializes in cyber intelligence with the firm CrowdStrike, which investigated the Russian hacks for the Democratic Party. Myers and other experts have new information tonight on operations inside Putin's hacking teams, which they say are as talented as they come.
When it comes to espionage and offense, they are fantastic. They are close to the best in the world, probably right after our own here in the United States.
CrowdStrike discovered that a Russian hacking team called Cozy Bear first penetrated the DNC in the summer of 2015. CrowdStrike says that team, also known as the Dukes, or APT-29, for Advanced Persistent Threat, is tied to Russian intelligence. In March of this year, CrowdStrike says, another Russian hacking team, Fancy Bear, began targeting the Democratic Party. Fancy Bear is believed to be commanded by the GRU, Russia's military intelligence agency.
What are the tools they use?
What these tools allow them to do is to access the computer, to download files, to upload files, to execute commands, to even take pictures of what's going on the screen.
This is apparently the bogus email that opened Pandora's box at the Clinton campaign. Quote, someone has your password, says an email to campaign chair John Podesta in March, posted online by WikiLeaks. It says to click on this link to reset the password.
Once they go to that link, it will actually take them to what looks like a Google login, and they'll be asked for their username and their password. And when they provide that username and their password, it will forward it to Google, but the attacker actually now has a copy of their username and password.
A technique used by what's believed to be an army of at least 4,000 Russian cyber agents.
Are these disheveled hackers who happen to be wearing military uniforms? Who are they?
I think that there's people in military uniforms, there's people that are probably more business focused, and then there's going to be a technical cadre that may be a little bit more informal and maybe a little bit more casual.
Vlad, this is the strongest response the U.S. has ever taken against a state-sponsored cyber attack. In addition to expelling the 35 people you mentioned and closing those compounds in Maryland and New York, the U.S. has also sanctioned 9 individuals and entities, including 2 Russian intelligence agencies, and the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI intend of Russians hacking in the United States. Now, you mentioned the legal purview for this. This was issued as an executive order. The president had previously issued an executive order giving himself the power to issue economic responses, economic sanctions, in response to a cyber attack. He's using that power here today.
And Paula, why did they not file the legal charges instead of this executive order? Why not file legal charges against the Russians?
That's a great question. We don't see any indictments here today. They say there may be further action, but Vlad, historically indicting, criminally charging individuals who were hacking on behalf of a nation state hasn't proven to be very successful for the Department of Justice in the United States. I'll use the example of the PLA hackers, the people who were hacking on behalf of the Chinese. They were going into companies in western Pennsylvania, stealing intellectual property, stealing plans for certain technology. The United States indicted them. But Vlad, that was several years ago, and none of those people have been extradited here to the United States, and there's no reason to think that they're not still in China and still hacking for the government. It was a little embarrassing for the United States, so that's probably one of the reasons they have chosen not to file criminal charges in this particular case.
Does this action and will this action actually deter Russia or any other state or entity that would seek to harm the United States using cyber warfare?
It's not clear, Vlad. The tricky thing about sanctions is that you never really know specifically what their effect will be. The Obama administration has really favored sanctions. They say sanctions like these are sophisticated, they are specific, and they are targeted. They hope that these will be a deterrent, but you never know specifically what will happen when you take action like this, because really, Vlad, as we all know, this is an unprecedented situation.
So can President Trump, just in the same way that President Obama used an executive action, can President-elect Trump do away with this executive action should he choose to?
Legally, yes, he could do away with this. He could amend it. He can do anything he wants to an executive action once he takes office. But if he does that, he's essentially going up against his party in Congress. Vlad, these sanctions, these actions, these have bipartisan support in Congress. So if he chooses to exercise his legal right to amend these or roll these back, he's going to face a fight with his own party in Congress, many of whom he needs to vote to confirm his nominees. So a legal fight, yes, he would win. A political fight, it remains to be seen whether or not he wants to take that on, and certainly whether or not he would win that political fight.
Paula, in the president's statement, as you know, at the end of it, he says, to that end, my administration will be providing a report to Congress in the coming days about Russia's efforts to interfere in our election as well as malicious cyber activity related to our election cycle in previous elections. I'm curious about those last 2 words, previous elections. And we obviously expect that this evidence will perhaps show that. Is that what you're hearing?
That's what it seems like. You know, they continue to say that we have more than we have actually shared. Now it seems they're going to open the kimono a little bit, show people more of the evidence they have, not only for this election, but for previous attempts at interference. It's no secret that the Russians and other adversaries have certainly tried to hack into various political organizations well before this election. That was known. But perhaps they may have additional evidence about the extent. But again, he's cryptic in his statement that was released along with these actions. This does not say specifically what they plan to reveal.